A very good evening to everybody watching. Thank you for joining us tonight on the evening review. My name is Taiwan Jabela. Tonight on the platform, we are joined by Alex Shimuafeni. He is the Statistician General and also Chief Executive Officer of the Namibia Statistics Agency. He's here to make a big announcement. The nation is looking forward and excited. And Alex will explain that in a moment. Thank you, CEO, for coming to the platform. It has been you are emerging out of a very difficult period, 2023. You carried out massive projects, and it looks like it's coming to fruition now. You are announcing your findings on Wednesday?
Yes, Trevor, thank you for having me. Good evening and good evening, viewers. Yes, we are releasing the preliminary results on Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
And yes, it's true. Everything is now culminating to the results.
Yeah.
It's not easy to carry out a census. You might find people also starting a census and not completing because of the challenges that they might face out there. But we're fortunate that we have managed to complete the exercise.
Absolutely. When you talk about preliminary, it's always a very difficult word.
Preliminary yes.
Result. It means what?
Yeah, it's what it says, preliminary in the sense that it's a very big data set, if we may call it that way. So we only releasing the key highlights, basically, of the census results. So, and why it's also preliminary is that when you work with a big data set as this, is that as you are going through doing analysis, you might find a duplication here and there. But normally it's, if you might find any difference or so in the data, it's very much insignificant. So this is why we say preliminary. And also, we don't want to have people waiting for a long time to find out whether we have increased the population or decreased or the same. So we need to give those highlights.
Yeah. So we would. So that announcement will include the findings of the population itself. How many we are now in the country.
That's correct.
Among other things.
Yes, that's correct. We'll have the total population that we have counted now in the census, as well as the population also per region.
Yeah.
We're also looking at that. We're also going to look at the density of how many people per square kilometer in a region. And maybe while I'm there, is that the institution that is responsible for giving the size of the region or even the country is the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. But we also have a GIS department, so we are going to use what we have, some of the maps that we have, but the exact figures that will still come from the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. So that's why it's also preliminary, because once they give us to the finest decimal point, then we will also be able to, and you know that it will be, it's not a big difference, but you want to be precise in terms of how many people, is it 10.1 or 10.02 people per square kilometer.
Wonderful. You must have encountered, I think we published a number of stories during the census period where some of your enumerators encountered challenges with some difficult people on the ground and whatnot. I know that whatever you have to say now doesn't matter anymore, but why was it important to gather this information? Because people just seem to be like, if you're not giving us jobs, why are you counting us and stuff like that? But maybe the bigger picture.
Yeah, just to start off with the last part, we are not an agency that is responsible for creating jobs or giving people jobs. But what people need to understand, what is important, is that we give information in terms of when you talk about unemployment or unemployment rate, how big or what is the magnitude of this unemployment and where exactly this unemployment is. So normally with that, we tell the people that we need to go and tell the policymakers, the planners, the principals in terms of what is the situation out there, and then they need to work on it. And with the census or any survey, you compare with how the situation has improved. For example, you want to know at independence if this was a situation, what is the situation at the moment. That's the first thing. But the other important thing is that it is actually by law you are mandated to participate in the census or a survey if you are selected in that sample. So the law actually compels you to provide information, truthful information, of which if you refuse, there's actually, and you found guilty on that, there's actually a fine of 50,000 Namibia dollars or 5-year imprisonment or both. And so far we never had to go up to there. We normally used to explain to the people, and then people actually need to be explained why we do the survey or why we do the census. And for example, the census, it's a complete count. So we need to count everyone. We cannot say that I'm too busy, I cannot be counted. Yeah. So that's really what it was all about. Yeah.
There was an exercise that NSA carried out just early this year, if I remember correctly. I think Esther from your office came here, but it's I can't remember the technical
post-enumeration survey.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did that go?
It went quite well, and I'm happy, and I want to thank the people who were selected in that sample to participate. And what it was all about was also about when people went in the field for the census. It's a quality measure event where people went to go and verify what was collected, and then we do what we call matching from what was collected from the census and what was collected from the post-enumeration survey, and then we match and see the quality of the people who eventually went out or initially went out for the census. So that was a quality assurance exercise.
Okay. So when we say this is a preliminary exercise, results, what happens after that? When are we going to have sort of the now fully confirmed final outcome?
That we're talking about October this year.
Yeah.
It could be earlier, but we're talking about October. And maybe just to explain why it takes some time also is that we're talking about various thematic reports. One such report is we want to have a full report on disability, where the people are and what they do and all these things. We want to have a thematic report also on gender. And then one which is for me, one that I'm really looking forward to, we want to have a report on proximity. We want to know what are the distances that people have to walk to schools, to water, all those, which is very important, especially in urban areas. So now, if you can imagine those cross-tabulations, analysis that needs to be done, that's why it takes a lot of time. But for now, what is important with the preliminary is that, for example, ECN, Electoral Commission of Namibia, want to know how many people are of the age of 18 years and above, so that they can plan for the elections, and especially so for this year's election going forward. They need to print ballot papers. So they need to, now you don't want to have a situation where you printed less ballot papers or more.
Or more, yes.
Yeah, but because if it's more, it's a wasteful expenditure. If it's less, it's a dilemma of people who cannot vote. So they need to plan accordingly to say, because the census also goes up to the constituency level to say how many people are in their constituency. And I know that is also more important for next year's election of the regional and local authority elections. But for planning purposes, they need information now.
Absolutely. You have hired a lot of people during the census period, but internally, in-house, how much capacity does NSA have? You you release a flurry of result of, outcomes quarterly and sometimes monthly and whatnot, which sounds like a lot of work. How much capacity do you have there?
Yeah, I must say that capacity is there in terms of the skills, but in terms of numbers, it's quite a challenge. That's why we had to bring in people. But what we have done for the census is that we needed to reorganize ourselves, and then we needed to concentrate on the census because that was the most single biggest project that we had as an institution.
Yeah.
Now, other countries or other statistics offices around the world, they are fortunate because they can actually have a dedicated team for the census project. But for us, it's the same team. So what we did is we said we need to concentrate on the census, but in the meantime, other work must also continue. And what we deliberately said is that the economic statistics department, they had to continue because they are the ones who are frequently producing most of these reports. We're talking about the CPI or the inflation figures on a monthly basis. We're talking about sectoral reports. We're talking about quarterly GDPs and so on. So they had to do a few of the people were also helping with the census, but they were mainly concentrating on that. So it was a blend of permanent staff and temporary staff or term-based staff that came to assist with the project, with the census project.
Yeah. Are there other major projects that NSA would ideally like to do in terms of your mandate, but things that maybe you haven't tapped into yet? I suppose when you look at your counterparts across the world, there are also perhaps beyond what you do now, there are other things that they do. Is there anything like that with you?
Yeah, definitely. There are that because we have limited resources, there are some of the projects that we cannot get to. And one notable one is that the labor force survey. As you know, the last one we did was in 2018.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be done on an annual basis. In fact, there is also a cabinet resolution that says we need to do the labor force survey on an annual basis.
Yeah.
And as a result, we also need to be adequately funded. But, there's always funds always compete with other priorities. So the labor force survey is one of them. Our counterparts in South Africa do this not only annually, but they also do it quarterly. They've got a full team that is doing that. The other one is we are talking about environmental statistics. We're only starting now. Now, environmental statistics are very important, especially now when you're talking about oil discovery, green hydrogen. We also need to see what are the statistics talking about in terms of, especially when we talk about green hydrogen, if you have the statistics of the greenhouse emission, you want to compare that now before we start producing green hydrogen and then thereafter. So those are some of them. And then we also have other statistics or surveys that are very critical. For example, financial inclusion survey, which is part of the financial strategy of the country. We need to know how many people are still excluded. Then we talk about the household income and expenditure survey. It's what other countries call it household budget survey. This is a survey. It's supposed to be done every 5 years. The last one was in 2015, 2016. We were supposed to do in 2020 at least. And then this is a survey where we can calculate our poverty rates, our inequality. Those are very important statistics. And not only do you get those statistics or indicators, but you also use them to rebase your national accounts or the GDP just to make sure that it is up to date. Yeah. So those are the things that we are missing out when you don't have sufficient funds. But I'm hopeful that going forward, with all these good discoveries that we have in the country, I'm sure we'll be able to get adequate funding.
Did you get good funding from Minister Shimi in this current budget?
It's yet to be determined, but from the look of things, it's a bit falling short from what we expected. Yeah, but we need to make do with what we have, and it's an issue of reprioritizing and also rearranging again, and see what, and also speak to the stakeholders to say, with this what we have, which are the burning points in terms of statistics that we need to collect.
Yeah. Before we go on a small break, Mr. Shimuafeni, do you rely 100% on the state for your income and revenue, or do you sell some of these things? And where do you draw your money from?
Yeah, the answer is emphatically that we need to be fully funded by government. The Statistics Act makes provision that we can do what we call commissioned work, meaning that it's a commercial project that we can do. We have done a few of those, but a fully functioning statistics office, and I want to give examples of the likes of the Statistics South Africa. The best that they could do, they could only get 5% of their total budget from those commercial projects, because statistics is a public good.
Yeah.
You cannot sell it. You need to have access to everyone, and these surveys are very expensive. And the fact that Namibia is very vast is even making it worse. As for example, when you're doing the census, there's a certain community in Opuo, which are on top of a mountain. We had to go there with a helicopter, because if you go with a car, it might take you a lot of days to come back. And we have a community that is also quite nomadic there. Yeah, so, but we are trying our best to supplement whatever we get from the government in terms of revenue. And then what is also important, we have to be prudent also.
Yeah.
We need to contain our costs just to assist also with that. But from my experience, own experience is that people have started to see more and more value into statistics. So I'm sure now they also support adequate funding to the Statistics Agency.
Absolutely. I thought we'd go on a break, but I would just ask you the one last question, Mr. Shimuafeni. I think you have covered the ground quite adequately, but your office releases some information that do not paint a very glossy picture of the state of affairs in the country, but it's scientific information that we need actually. We live in a country that is very sensitive towards negativity. Do you sometimes land in trouble with politicians that, how can you say that? It's election year, stuff like that?
No, to answer the question is, since I joined office, I never had that type of interference.
Yeah.
And I must thank the political principals and seniors that they understand that they don't interfere into that. But to come back on some of the pictures that we are painting, first of all, I want to say that as a statistics agency, we are not there to paint either a good picture or a bad picture. We are there to paint the reality, what is on the ground. And the challenge is that sometimes they look at maybe from one angle and not holistically. The picture might look bad, if I may say that, but then maybe there were also other good things that is part of that picture where people do not look at. If I give an example, maybe if you say unemployment rate, if it's high, if a population increases and number of graduates increase and all this, meaning that many people had access to schools, people must also look at it from that point to say there are many people who had access to schools compared to maybe in the past. So that's why the reason why the unemployment rate is high. So people need to look at that. So when maybe then you need to say, if this is the situation now, how do you make it best out of it? For example, if we have more graduates, it's a plus. So what do we do out of that? How do we maybe look at self-employment or entrepreneurship or so? Yeah, this is what it is. But yes, I just to conclude again on this question is that No, we don't get that interference of saying, why do we release now? And also from the Act. The Statistics Act says we need to, or rather the UN Principles of Statistics says we need to have an advanced release calendar. So if we need to release statistics, let's say beginning of November, and the 27th of November is the election year, or election date, we are not called in to say put it on hold or what have you, or because either way you must also remember that we always on the losing end, because if statistics are good for the state, people will think that we are there to promote the state. If statistics are not good, people might think that we are against the state or so, but we are just a neutral agency that is producing what is on the ground.
Absolutely. So just to now round up, Mr. Shimuafeni, Wednesday,
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock is the announcement. Will it be on any platforms, radio, social media, any live streaming?
Yes, we are going to, it's going to be live on the NBC platforms, because we couldn't get to everyone on Facebook, on their Facebook. I think also some of their app also. But the event itself is taking place at Country Club. We're starting early, of course, but by 10 o'clock, that's when we start to release the data. Because yet again, this is part of our advanced release calendar. You need to say also what time you are going to release. And obviously, after that, it will be on our website as well. If you want to dig into the figures and make your own analysis also. We are looking at a way of saying, how do we make it interactive? For example, if you are from one region and you want to compare with another region, maybe you can put in and play with your numbers. But that was still something in the making. But if you don't get it out now, definitely for the main report, we'll have to get it out.
Absolutely. Alex, thank you for making time.
Thank you, Teo.
That's Alex Shimuafeni is the CEO of, as a matter of fact, he's the Statistician General and CEO of the Namibia Statistics Agency. They're announcing the preliminary results for the census that they conducted in 2023. Everybody's looking forward to that. But thank you for watching. And Alex, Man U this week versus Liverpool. We have to come to the party, you and I.
I've actually resigned from Man U for a while until we get our
house in order. That was the show for tonight. Thank you for watching.